We may be, it's, and now it's setting it up the meeting. So we're either live or we're not. I'm not sure. So I'm going to act like we are. This technology always just kicks me in the rear end. So.
I don't know how to tell.
Well, it's doing it to me again. There we go. All right, meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. So we probably have been live. I'm Kelly Coates Gilbert, everyone. I'm broadcasting tonight from Dallas, Texas, and I apologize. Sometimes Zoom just gives me a hard time, and I apparently hit a button and put this live to the wrong place, and so I had to back up and do a little bit more. And when I talked to Cindy earlier, I told her, I said, the one thing that always kicks me is the technology, and I just go with it. So I apologize. But let me introduce Cindy tonight. This is Cindy Nichols. I was so excited to have her on here because I don't know if you guys order books on Amazon, but there's this place called Also Bots, which is, if you buy my book, they think that you would like her book too. And I kept seeing her name come up and I knew I wanted to read one of her books. I did, I loved it. And then I decided, well, I want to have her on here so we can meet her. So this is Cindy Nichols, and she is from the Tucson area. I'll go ahead and let you tell them a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to talk about your series, and I'm going to tell them a little bit about some of your reviews and why everyone loves your books.
Oh, well, I thank you for having me, and I will tell a little secret about you. Kelly is just the nicest person in the world. She held my hand. I said, I can't do it. I'm too shy. And she said, sure you can. And just being such a charming person, she finally got me here. So thank you. And I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, Cindy has written several series that are the perfect beach reads. And when I say perfect beach reads, I mean they're all set on the beach. And for those of you who are still quarantining, still sheltering away, this is the perfect way to take a little bit of an armchair vacation. So if you want to go to Newport, which is where most of her books are set, now is the time to pick up Cindy Nichols' book. She has two series that I've seen with multiple books underneath these series. The first one is, am I pronouncing it right? Vaquita?
Yes, Vaquita Beach.
Vaquita Beach. Those four titles are As Deep as the Ocean, As Bright as the Stars, By the Light of the Moon, and As Blue as the Sky. And then her newest series is Newport Beach series. That's the one I read. I read Newport Harbor House, and then she has Newport Beginnings and a Newport Sunrise. And this is what the tagline for that series is, where bonds of family and friends run deep. And let me tell you a little bit about what her readers say. These are some excerpts from some of her reviews. Delightful characters and story make this the perfect summer read. I agree. Another one said, held my interest from the beginning to the end. And a third one said, Cindy has done it again, writing a book that you want to read in one sitting. Those are some pretty high, what we call here in the South, that's pretty high cotton. So obviously readers love you. And for all of our members here tonight, why don't you tell us a little bit about your writing journey and how you became a writer? I want to hear.
Well, that's always an interesting story. I was one of those kids who read under the covers with a flashlight, you know, when after bedtime, and I just read and read and read. And I remember in high school asking my American Lit teacher, do you think I could ever be a writer? And he looked at me and said, well, you'd have to write something first. Oh, there's that. Okay, there's that. So, you know, I grew up in California. I grew up very close to Newport Beach, actually. One of my sisters still lives there. And I went on to college, and I was a literature major. You know, I ended up reading everything I could possibly read. And then I kind of got on the path that everybody else did at our age. You know, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you raise those kids. It's a lot. You know, then you go back to work. And I was an English teacher. I started out teaching English as a second language in California, which I did not know how to do. So for the first long time, we pretty much played hangman. I figured it would teach them the alphabet, and then we read stories together and had them write stories. Anyway, it's been in my background for a long time. So then I was a teacher, then I was a principal, and then I was a director of student services. And then my sister said, you know, I want to open a group home for teenagers. And I said, you want to do what? And she said, come to Arizona. I worked with at-risk kids all the time. And we would write stories. I'll abbreviate this. Anyway, I did that. We did that at just the beginning of the recession. Brilliant to open a business at the beginning of the recession. So that didn't go well. So I found myself living in Mexico on the beach because I had bought a house down there. It's very close to California. It's like a weekend thing to just go drive down Baja and you're on the beach, you know, it's something you could never, ever hope to do in California. And I didn't want to go back to work as a principal. I wanted to do something else. And I needed to do something that was, you know, location independent. And I had always loved to write for myself. You know, there's a big leap between writing for yourself and then having somebody else see it. You know, even you read my book, made my hands sweat. Like, oh no, because you write it in, you know, in private with the reader in mind, and you want to make them happy, and you're just feeling it. But then when people actually read it and they bring it up, it's just, sometimes it's kind of scary. But
well,
anyway.
Me and several of my friends liken it to when you release a book, it's like walking down the street naked.
And that's a nice way to put it, right? Yeah, it's really scary. And I
want to be writers out there, think about that.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I, you know, hit publish and I started crying. I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? And it's just really hard to put yourself out there, especially if you've not a lot of experience with being a creative person, because you don't trust yourself quite yet. You know, it takes a while to get a little more confident. Yeah. So I took a class on writing, even though I'd been an English teacher and I'd written. I thought, okay, I need to take a class in writing. And this was back in 2013, 2014, right when ebooks had started. And one of the reasons that I hadn't wanted to do the traditional route is because I had kids, I was working, and I didn't want to submit to a publisher even back then. Yeah. I think probably for the same fear reason, you know, you have to put yourself out there, and I didn't want all those rejection letters that I was positive I was going to get. Yeah. So yeah. I just didn't. So I was down there and fell in with a group on Facebook who were taking this class. And one of the assignments is you just had to do something. You just have to write something. And I sat there and I looked at the beach. I lived on the beach, and I just closed my eyes and started writing in the beginning, and I didn't know what I was doing.
So is it for you the same as it for me? I tell my husband when he comes in, I put my hand up, like he knows that means don't talk to me because the movie's playing in my head. So when you said you closed your eyes, sometimes I write with my eyes closed.
So do I. And I had learned to, you know, when I moved here back to where people are, I had to turn off my phone and tell people, don't call me. And I describe it frequently as when I'm really in something, it's almost like, and when I stop, it takes me a while to get back in my house with my cat. Like, oh, you probably want food, because I've been somewhere, I've been where I'm writing about.
Yes.
And those people are very real to me. The characters are very, very real.
Well, and I mean, for all of you readers, you know what it feels like when you're right in the middle of a book and you're so in it. And if the author has done his or her job, you become that protagonist and you're living out the plot line. When you're an author, ramp that up by about 20.
Yeah, it's true. I write under a pen name. I write historical contemporary romance under a pen name. Huh?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have, I don't know, 25, 30 books under Cindy Caldwell. Anyway, I wrote a historical series, and it's all one family. There are 9 books in that series, and it was set in Tombstone in the 1880s. And I have often said, if Sadie Archer knocked on my door, I would say, well, of course you're here. Yeah. You know, this was in 1880. You know, she was my first real character that I really sunk my teeth into, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I love that family.
I did that once. I wrote a book that was set in Houston, and when the Houston floods came, my first thought was, oh no, you know, because I got concerned about them, and then
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. It's just uncanny. I don't know how to describe it, but you just described it really well. It's the same as when you're reading a book, and when it's over, you've been so in touch with these people. Like you said, if we did our job right, that it becomes so very real. Interesting.
Well, I think that's why our readers love really well-written series, because they don't want to say goodbye to characters they fall in love with. They want another story. They want another opportunity to see them. I constantly get emails saying, you know, would you write another book in the Sun Valley series, because we want to see what happens to this person or that person. And I do that. My favorite author of all time is Cassandra King. She was she was married to Pat Conroy. And when I very first signed my first contract, I was invited to the Pulpwood Queens, which is the nation's largest book club, and they have a girlfriend weekend in Texas once a year. A fun group. And I got invited to go. I just signed my contract, and there were some big authors there that year, but the biggest keynote author was Pat Conroy. And I mean, I had read Prince of Tides and Beach Music, and oh my gosh, I just like couldn't even talk. I was like, well, I ended up by the third night, I was in the bar drinking beer next to Pat Conroy. And he was telling me, this business, it'll just fill you up and spit you out, and you'll love every minute of it. And I mean, Pat Conroy was so, but I met his wife that weekend. And he was an author too. Well, I love her books. And she wrote a book called Same Sweet Girls. I have to go back and read that book every once in a while, because I miss, I miss those girls.
Yeah, it really happens like that. I have a funny, I sat next to somebody's story one time too. Anyway, so to make that long story short, in this group, and this was, like I said, again, back in the day, was Pam, who we were talking about earlier, Pamela Kelly. And she and I were chatting a lot because we were taking the same class. And again, she lives in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and I'm in Mexico. And she said, I'm going to this Indie Unconference in San Francisco in 10 days. Why don't you go? I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't go. How would I go? I'm in Mexico. And she's like, I don't know, just go. So for some reason, I looked up a flight, and it was $100 round trip from San Diego to San Francisco. Does that ever happen? No. I don't think so. So I'd never met her in person. And she hadn't met me either. So we ended up sharing a hotel room in San Francisco at the first Indie Unconference. But the reason I said that is because I was in the bathroom. Bella Andre was there, and Barbara Freethy and Courtney Milan and stuff. And it was very small. So I'm in the bathroom, and I look under the stall, and it was Bella Andre's boots. And I was like, I'm in the bathroom next to Bella Andre. So of course I get out of the bathroom, and I don't know where Pam is. So I'm messaging her on Facebook, and I posted it to my page that I was in the next stall with Bella Andre instead of sending it to my friend. Oh my gosh. But I
think that readers don't really realize that we're groupies too. I mean, I have my favorite authors, and I'm always finding new favorite authors. And I'm like you. I mean, sometimes I'm just celebrity struck. I mean, to me, authors are celebrities.
Well, I hadn't published anything yet at all, you know, so and I think Pam only had.
What year did you first publish in again?
Pam only had one book. What
year did you publish in again? First time?
Well, 2014.
Oh, so you were in that year that everybody says are kind of the golden years, where ebooks were just starting to come on the scene. And if you were indie pubbing and had ebooks available, boy, people were scooping those up.
Yeah, but those books didn't go anywhere. So actually I unpublished them and republished them under Cindy Nichols, which is the Mexico, the Vaquita Beach series. Those are the first books I ever wrote. That's cool. And mostly because I wrote about where I was living in Mexico, and the Vaquita is an endangered species. At the time, there were only like 300 left. Now there are only like 25. And so it was my imaginative way of trying to save them.
Well, must be why those books have all those reviews about how wonderful the setting is. I mean, I read your reviews and your readers were just, they were posting about how wonderful and it took them away. And, you know, I think that must be kind of a keynote of your books, that you take people away and let them escape to a cool place they might not get to go to.
Well, I try.
Book.
Yeah, and not a lot of people are interested in Mexico, which I knew, but I was so passionate about you know, where I lived and about the wildlife. You know, in the second book of that series, I described watching a huge, you know, sea tortoise or turtle. I always get them mixed up. And laying her eggs, and I really saw that. I sat there and watched it, and so it was really fun to be able to describe that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
And people, I saw from your reviews that they love your characters. Tell me a little bit about how you develop characters. And then I want you to tell me about one of your characters that your readers just love to hate. Somebody that, you know, I mean, just a character, you know, that came in a story that just everybody loves to hate them because they're just, you know.
Yeah. In this particular series, in the Newport series, the only really bad character that I have, and she gets a real workover in book 2, is Carrie's mom, her mother, who talks her into doing the fundraiser that ends up at the beginning of book 2 to be a complete and utter disaster.
Yeah, kind of a social climber.
Yeah. But in my series that's set in Tombstone, I have a great character. She's awful. She's awful. She's a widow.
The readers just love to hate her, huh?
Widow Sampson, yes. And she taps her cane, and her husband died a year ago, and she's still dressed in black, and she wears his hair on a brooch that they did back then in the 1800s. They really did that.
Oh, wow.
And she's just horrid. She's horrid. But she's so much fun. She's fun to write.
Do you ever fashion any of your characters after real people?
None of my family or my friends are here, right? Probably.
We won't tell.
Yes, and sometimes that can be difficult. In the Newport Harbor series, actually, those are my best friends. Really, that I have had for 30 years.
Well, that's a compliment, because I read that first book, and that's a compliment.
Oh, and one of them, Carrie, who wears orange, my friend Felicia, wears orange all the time and always has, and it's ridiculous. I could show you her picture on Facebook, and you'd go, "Oh my gosh, that's her."
That is.
But it was just a funny shtick, you know, that she wears the ridiculous clothes all the time, and it was.
Your books are woven with deep friendships, and you know, women's fiction is my favorite genre, and the reason it is, and I know that kind of, you know, is a big expanse of broad definition, because it kind of covers domestic thrillers and some of those different things, but to me, women's fiction is a story that is set historical or contemporary, but really focuses on relationships, family relationships, you know, sometimes love interest relationships, although that's not usually primary. But you paint wonderful friendships.
Oh, thank you.
You must have good friends.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, you know, I noticed I did another series under my other pen name too, with 4 other authors, and we published every 2 weeks. One of us would rotate, and it was intertwined. It was a family who ran a ranch. My point of bringing this up is, it was so gratifying to me and so much fun to write about relationships. You know, those were romances, so you had your primary, you know, hero and heroine, but mine ended up being, you know, another, just the big Weston family that owned the ranch, but other family relationships that were so intertwined. And we're all in this all together, and there's so many different kinds of relationships, you know, deep and not so deep, passing, but even those passing relationships can be very life-changing and life-affirming. And one of the things I'm really bad at is I pretty much always have to redeem people somehow. I can't not, because I think everybody is redeemable. So it matters to me that people are very real with each other. And I've worked, again, as principal and director of student services, I worked with some really challenged and damaged people.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Hundreds, thousands of people. And there was, in my entire career, there was only one kid that I had to say to, I don't think I can help you. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart for months.
Sure.
But for the most part, people want to be connected. They want to have love, and they want to be in relationship, even if it's a relationship with the clerk at the ice cream store that you see every Sunday night. You know, those connections matter.
I don't know about you, and I hear readers say this all the time. In fact, I get emails that tell me so, but I think books shape us. We become who we are because of, if you're a reader, you get to step outside yourself and experience things that you never would have experienced, and be people and get in their heads. And like when I was young, my favorite book for a long while was A Woman of Substance by Barbara Taylor. Yeah. And I mean, I loved Emma Hart. I wanted to grow up and be a woman that mattered. And I knew I would be. And things like, I read a book called Mr. and Mrs. Bojo Jones about a teenage pregnancy situation. Well, I'll tell you something. There wasn't a guy who was going to get me in the back seat of a car. Because I wasn't going to be like Julie Jones, you know.
Yes, and, we learn all kinds of things, good and bad and sideways.
Yeah. You know, I read Gone with the Wind. And I remember I grew up on a sheep ranch, and we were in a what's called a granary, which is just kind of this big circular metal building where all the grain is stored. And it was a great place to go hide to read. I'd open it and you could scoop the grain to where it was really comfortable, and I'd sit in there and read. And even though there were kind of mice running around, so that didn't bother me, but I would hide in there because on the ranch, you have a lot of chores. And my mother would stand on the porch and go, "Kelly Ray," and I would not answer because Charleston was burning.
Which was much more pressing.
I knew I'd get in trouble, but it didn't matter, you know. And Scarlet, I mean, look at who you learn to be just from reading Scarlet, you know, and Melly, you know, and you decide kind of who you want to be because of that. And so characters really matter, and your characters, you know, I looked at your reviews and such, and I read one of your books, so I know your characters are deep and well thought out and crafted. And I promise you, readers, if you have not read Cindy's books yet, you need to go grab one, because her characters are superb.
That's very sweet of you to say so. And there's a flip side of that too. I wrote a book when I first got here 4 years ago, and I'm here because my mom lives here. And she had recently gotten married at 80, which was crazy. Oh, and she's awesome. It was really, it's a cute book, because she drove around this little town in a red convertible, and she played tennis 3 times a week, and she, you know, she was just crazy. My mom's just was so crazy and so much fun. So I wrote this book about a retirement town, and she had all her friends, and they had their velour sweatsuits, and they, you know, got lost all the time. And it's really cute, but I haven't published it because shortly after that, she began to get dementia. And it was so shocking to me, and so sudden that I couldn't publish it, because it wasn't true anymore, and it was too hard. I tried to write, the reason I brought that up is because I wanted to put some of that in Newport Harbor House, but I couldn't. It's too fresh still.
Too tender. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a time, or maybe not. Maybe that'll just be your story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice.
Tell me a little bit about what you find is the greatest surprise of this industry that you just didn't expect.
I think there are 2 things. And you and I were chatting about this a little bit a while ago. This is can be a very isolating job. Yeah. You know, you're in your head for hours at a time. You know, it's not like, I mean, there used to be RWA chapters and things like that, but they're, you know, few and far between, and it's difficult. But one of the things that really surprised me is once you start to get to know people, how mostly very supportive and encouraging they are. I was so pleasantly surprised. And you and I talked about the conference we went to in Florida and how it's just people want to
I know
connect.
what you're saying, because some of my best friends are authors that I've never even met in person.
Mhm.
And the same thing with readers. I have met on social, I love social media for that purpose. You know, a lot of people, it's a hard place right now because of all the volatility of emotions and thought process.
A lot going on.
But I still love social media because it's a place to connect. And
Mhm.
that's where my readers hang. And that's why I started She's Reading, to offer another opportunity to connect, because some of my very favorite people are my readers and my author friends.
Mhm.
They get me.
Mhm.
And I've met wonderful, sweet people. I did a birthday bash on She's Reading a couple of weeks ago, and oh, we had so much fun.
Oh,
It made my
fun.
birthday so fun, you know?
Yeah, and that was going to be the other half of what I said. What I was going to say is exactly that about readers.
Yeah.
You know, it's just fascinating to me. You know, when I send out an email, sometimes I'll have people respond and say, "Oh, that really resonated with me. Thank you for sharing that." And I'm like, "Wow, you're in some state I've never been in the middle of the night, and how nice to meet you." You
Yeah.
know, it's so fun
Yeah.
to connect with people because, again, you know, we all just want to be connected, and I
Yeah.
love it when readers reach out in any way. It's
Yeah.
always wonderful.
I mean,
Wonderful.
I've been surprised. My debut novel will always be my favorite. But it was the story of a high school counselor who was teaching in this tiny little Idaho town that was a very football town, and they were in the middle of football championships when she discovered that the coach was being inappropriate with girls. All that entailed. And when I put that book out, I still, to this day, will get emails weekly. I've gotten emails from teachers who say, "Oh yeah, boy, that's happened all the time," you know. Or I've gotten lots of emails from girls who say, "Yeah, my teacher was, you know," or "This happened to me," or "This is a secret, but," and they'll tell me, and I'm going, oh, you know, I mean, what a privilege as another person. It was a place for them to put that. And then I even got one from a perpetrator who said, "I was that coach. I'm not
Wow.
anymore, but I was that coach."
Wow.
I didn't quite know what to do with that, but it's remarkable as an author, the entry we have to people's lives and their inner places.
Privilege was the perfect word, Kelly. Privilege, you know, and just letting people know that there's another human out there that has had a similar experience, or, you know, that you're not alone and you're not crazy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's a big world, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's a privilege, really.
Well, and one of the lines in that book, the mother, her own daughter's gone kind of off the rails. And this one situation in the book, she says, "How could I not have known?" And for most mothers, when you're raising teenagers, you know, you just don't know sometimes what you don't know. And, you know, a lot of mothers reached out to me and said, "Wow, that really hit a spot with me." You know, so.
I don't think there's a mother alive who hasn't had that experience with something. Like,
Yes,
how did I miss that? But again, you know, we all do, and
yeah,
we're all doing our best,
that's
you know,
right.
at any given moment.
That's what connects us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what I asked you what the most surprising thing about the publishing journey. What's been the hardest thing for you? What has something that you just wished was a little different in this business?
Well, aside from the fact of you and I talked about how scary it is just to publish, and that doesn't ever go away. It happens every book so far to me anyway. But
When you start a brand new book and there's the white screen.
you know, um, well, we talked about being you know, in the indie world, and that you get a lot of freedom and a lot of control over what you do. You get to pick your covers. You don't have to ask anybody anything. But we had said that with that, you get a lot of responsibility too. And I'm not as good at some things as I am at others. You know, I have friends who are great at advertising and they love it. We talked about that earlier. I don't love it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm really great at it. So you find ways to work around that. It's a big field. I mean, my
Well,
friend.
it's like any business. You have your strengths and your weaknesses. But
Yeah.
as a writer, what kind of a writer? I always say that there's two spectrums. There's a pantser and a plotter. And which end? Let's describe that for anyone who doesn't know. A pantser is someone who writes by the seat of her pants. She might know generally where she's headed, but doesn't really know. That's what I am. And then a plotter actually plots out scene by scene by scene. Which are you?
My short answer though always used to be I'm a plotter, but I think I'm a little bit more of a hybrid now, after, 35 books. I kind of got my system done now, but what has been interesting for me in the last few, I always know kind of how it's going to end, generally speaking. Well, if you're writing a romance, they're going to end up together,
Yeah.
But I kind of know how and why. So what's happened to me lately is I don't plot every single scene. I will identify for myself the beginning and my people and my setting, and I'll know kind of what's going to happen at the end, and I'll know what's the problem in the middle.
Yeah.
So I usually end up writing about halfway, and by then I have completely changed what the ending is going to be. So then because I try to weave a fair number of subplots in. So what I've been doing, which is really kind of odd, is I end up writing the ending when I kind of get a little bit, how sometimes in the middle you're floating a little bit.
Yeah.
And you want it to still be really interesting and you want a lot to happen, but you're not quite sure what that is yet.
Yeah.
So then I'll go and write the end, which just kind of solidifies everything for me. Not the epilogue, because sometimes something happens and I don't know what's going to be in the epilogue. Sure. And then I kind of know how I want to weave the rest of it. Long answer to your short question. I think I'm a hybrid.
And it's interesting to me how every author has their own process. I have one friend who he writes scenes. He just writes a bunch of scenes and then he lays them all out.
Really?
And then he writes what he calls the bridges to the scenes.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I
I'm too OCD for that. That would drive me nuts.
I don't think so. In the beginning, I plotted everything because I was still learning.
Yeah.
I didn't. But the funny thing was, on the way to the market, the whole shopping list changed. So I wasn't ending up doing what I had originally intended.
Yeah.
Because as you get into it, being a pantser, you really know that. You get to know your people a lot better.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you have better ideas. It's like, oh, that would be really fun for them to do, or oh, this horrible thing has to happen now.
Yeah.
You can't.
I always say I like to do the roller coaster ride for the reader. You want to take them up and then down and then around, and so that every scene, every page has got something that propels them through. And I love it when I surprise a reader, because it surprises me what I do, and that's why I love being a pantser.
Isn't that fun when that happens?
A cup of coffee, yeah.
I know at the end of the day, you go, well, I didn't see that coming.
I didn't know that was coming. Yeah. And when the characters start getting real, they really do start to just kind of talk and do things. And but I've done a lot of study, and one of my favorite teachers is Donald Moss, and he says in every scene you need to stop a moment and say, what would make it worse right now? And that's been real helpful to me.
Yeah.
And then I worked with a book doctor when I wrote A Woman of Fortune, and he told me something really fun. And that was that you can take an inciting incident, and that's the thing that pulls your character into a new world. And you write down all the different scenarios that could happen, some response to it. And then you develop a character to play out that response.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't that fun? Yeah. I mean, and when I did that in that book won got on the Library Journal Best Book list that year. So
awesome.
That was a really good idea. And I've appreciated that. But tell me a little bit, when you wake up in the morning, Cindy, what does your day look like? Walk the readers through that. What does your day look like?
You mean a pre-quarantine day or a quarantine day?
Yes. Yes, you're normal.
Although you wouldn't think it would change for me. I mean, I live by myself with that cat, so you wouldn't think it would be all that different. But I would like to. You want what I would like to have happen, or what really happens?
I don't know what really happens. Like, you get up, do you go make your coffee? Do you shower? Do you write in your pajamas? What do you tell?
Not in the morning.
Tell
No,
your
I
secrets. We want your secrets.
You're so funny. I get up and I try to. I do all my, feed the cat, all that kind of stuff. I don't drink coffee, so I usually make tea or lemon water or something. And then I go sit outside for a little bit because it's really pretty here in the morning. And I kind of check in with people, maybe longer than I should. I see how my daughter's doing today. She started a garden, so she sends me pictures of her zucchini that she self-pollinated, and I say, "Oh, honey, that's so wonderful." Yeah. And her pumpkin plants that she named Snap, Crackle, and Pop. So,
okay, that's book fodder.
Yeah, right. I know. So I do that for a while, and then I try to turn off everything and write. And I'm getting better at doing that every day. I'm getting better. I tend to be a binge writer when I have a deadline. Oh. And I think that's, I've thought about it so many times, and I don't know why that is, but I think I get it. I just get better ideas when I get pushed up against a wall.
Pressure helps you create.
I guess, I made myself wrong for it for a really long time.
Yeah.
But now I've kind of realized after so many books that it really it just helps me, and it's the way I roll. So, but to try to protect myself from that, because those are some long days, and
yeah,
I'm old, so my hands hurt after doing so many words a day. I try really hard to keep up with it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So what I try to do then is write from 8 to 12. Mm-hmm. Then I'll have lunch, and then I'll think about it, and I'll try to do some marketing that I'm not very good at, and I will bemoan the fact that I'm not very good at it, and then I'll take a class on marketing, and I'm still not very good at it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of readers don't know that an author, whether you're traditionally published or whether you have gone the independent publishing route, marketing is a huge component to what we do. We write our stories, but we still have to get them in front of readers. And the way you do that is a multiple of ways, but that's a whole nother part of our job. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do it, you don't sell. Readers don't find you. They don't know you've got a new book out. They don't know, and so in part, I do this because I'm isolated. I love to connect with some of my favorite authors. I mean, I just feel like I'm just chatting with you, but I'm also very interested in connecting authors with readers. Mm-hmm. In a forum like this, that is so fun. This is an easy way to do it and tell readers, and readers appreciate it. They have, all the members of She's Reading have, many of them have written me and said, "Thank you. We so enjoy this. And we discovered a new author we never would have found." So, it works.
Yeah. So there are things that you can do. Most of us are introverts. A lot of us are introverts. So that's kind of hard. You're really, really good at it, and I'm grateful. You make it easy. Well,
I'm an extroverted introvert, meaning I love people and I love being around them for a minute.
Yeah, right. If
I get too much, I get saturated and I need to go be by myself.
Right. Me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I guess that's most of my day, and I feel so lucky. I feel so blessed that I can, continue to work at home.
Oh yeah.
On my on
my
own
job ever. We do.
Yeah, and I can be available for my mom if she needs something. It's a lot harder now because she's 85 and I can't really be close to her. Sure. I mean, I've got my mask and I try to keep her safe.
Yeah.
But I cook a lot for them and take it over there. So yeah, I'm just really blessed.
When you we talked, before we went live, we talked about how much we love to read. And so when you're in your leisure time, what do you love to read? What's your step inside a reader now and tell everybody what you love to read? Yeah,
people ask me that a lot, and it's really interesting because I think of the things that the books that keep you up all night, like you were talking about, when Charleston was burning and you just nothing else mattered in the entire world.
Yeah.
And it used to be, it used to be women's fiction a long time ago. Like A Woman of Substance, all of those,
Yeah.
all I love. And so now I kind of have to read for, I don't have to, it's a pleasure. I like to, I'm glad, I'm lucky, but I kind of am reading more in this genre.
Oh.
And I read one of yours and I loved it. It was the, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember the name, but I loved it. And I try to read as much as I can of things that are kind of similar to what we're doing.
Yeah. I have friends who, for pleasure, they read like really different stuff. You know, they'll read dystopian.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is, but they're writing fodder, and their stories that they read for pleasure are way different. And I'm not like that. I like what I write.
Yeah, well, I do too. But the last series that kept me up all night was the In Death series from Nora Roberts, J.D. Robb.
Oh.
I do not know why. I don't know why. Well, no, that's not true. In hindsight, and you know of it, I imagine she's a futuristic cop, and but it was again the relationships that I loved. She did such a masterful job of over that huge arc. I mean, it's still going. It's like what, book 30?
Yeah, a lot of fans.
Of the relationships, and those people changed so much over the whole arc of that. And they happened to be solving murders, and it was kind of gory and kind of gross, but I just skipped that part because I wanted to see the next time so and so came on the scene.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just things that are about relationship.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, oh, you have to read Mystic River, it's just one of the best written books in the world. And I can't. I mean, I am kind of what I appear to be. Like I don't like scary movies, and I don't like a lot of gory stuff.
Yeah.
It's just me. I can't get them out of my head.
I'm a huge Southern fiction fan. I mean,
no.
One of the things I loved was, and I think it's because they're really rich in relationship stuff, but I actually surprised myself. I had never read series until I read the Mitford series, and that thing I just loved. I devoured every book that she put out. I love the Mitford series. And then I have loved Robin Carr's Virgin River series.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that so good?
Yeah, I love Robin Carr. I mean, and I've been told I write like her, and it's probably because I love her so much and I read so much of her stuff. Yeah. And
so
I
those kinds of
Debbie Maycomber. I like Debbie Maycomber's, or especially her recent ones have been all really good. But I also, for Southern fiction, Kristen, she's on that summer promo with us. Kristen,
Harvey Woods.
Yes. Harvey Woodson. Yes, I have loved her books.
And that book, I read the first one. I haven't had time to read the other ones, but Rachel Hannah's book, The Beach House.
Yes, I heard. Yeah,
that was good too.
So for any of you who don't know, I actually posted it in She's Reading, but we're in a promo together. It's called Summer Reading, and it is with 5 different authors, and you go and you enter. You only enter once, and then you get on. What you're doing is subscribing to all our newsletters, but you get a chance to win all 5 books. And so that meme and that entry is on She's Reading. So if you haven't entered, go down there and you'll want to enter that, because they're great books, all 5 of them. Yeah, and Pamela Kelly's in there too, isn't she? Yeah, yeah. So really, really great books, and Rachel Hannah and Jan Moran, I think, is in there.
Oh yeah, I got to meet her in November. She is so sweet.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and good books. So those are great, great books. Well, we're just about at the top of the hour, not too long. So I want you to tell them a little bit. Cindy has graciously offered to do some giveaways for our members tonight. And just so you know, everybody who has been posted, we can't see your questions. It's the one problem with using Zoom, on this live. But for anyone who's posting questions, we will go back in there and we'll answer. So post your questions for Cindy. If you have any for me, post them. And we'll be back in there chatting with you when this live is finished. But in the meantime, tell them about your giveaways and how that's all going to work.
Okay, well, I thought that I would be happy to give away 5 ebook copies of Newport Harbor House.
5 copies.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
are they Kindle copies or,
Mhm.
okay. So they're
Ebook
Amazon
copies.
Kindle ebook copies.
I would do a paperback, except I can't really go to the post office and I don't have any right
Yeah,
now. Otherwise I would.
yeah, yeah. Well, I find a lot of our readers are Kindle readers anyway. And for any of you who do not have a Kindle device on your smartphone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone or
Yes.
whatever, you can download the Kindle reading app and just read on your phone. So this does not leave you out.
Yes. So I'm going to do random. I have a random generator thing. So anybody who comments, I just randomly, it picks a number and then I just count down. But, and I'll do a post tomorrow morning for the winners. And if any of you have difficulty or don't have a Kindle, I have other ways I can get you an e-copy.
Oh, great.
So let me know. You can
Yeah.
just message me.
So how do they enter your contest? Do they just comment or?
Yes, just comment.
Okay.
Just comment on this thread. And I have a question for you, because I was so embarrassed I couldn't remember the name. I read Sisters, your first in the Sun Valley, and I wanted to ask you, this is one of the things we probably don't have time, but just real fast.
We got time.
How do you pick your settings? Are they all places you're really familiar with or you've been to? Because I know like Virgin River is a fictional place. I chose a real place. Obviously Sun Valley's real.
Yeah.
My friend who wears orange clothes is there right now, by the way.
Oh, fun.
Her sister.
Sun Valley?
Yeah, her sister has a house there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up over there on a sheep ranch. And so primarily I chose real places. And there were places I was either really familiar with, or when I did the Texas Gold Series, I just moved to Texas then. And so my publisher at the time paid for me to go on research trips, which was great. We would go for 4 or 5 days and I would, and I love picking real settings, real hotels, I just think, and I get lots of emails from readers. They love it too. But this new series, the Pacific Bay series, is really Newport, Oregon. But I called it Pacific Bay. I don't know why I did the switch really, but I wanted to be able to make up things, and I've been to Newport a lot, and so I'm still kind of using some of the landmarks, but I wanted to have a little more leeway.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's difficult because I set mine obviously in Newport Beach, California, and I've been there a ton.
Yeah,
but I took a little bit of leeway with the house being able to see the harbor and the beach, and there's only like 2 houses there that can do that. And one reader in a review said it's not accurate and doesn't describe it, and I said, well, I know, but yeah, I had to. So it's a kind of a mixed bag. Everything else is they're real restaurants, they're real everything. But it's a hard decision. So I can see why you would want to name it something else, just to have that wiggle room.
When I did Sun Valley series, because I grew up there, I approached them because they're very particular about their trademarked material. They won't let people use, just like Disney won't let you use. So I went up there and they graciously allowed me to enter into a co-promotion agreement with them and allowed me certain uses of, like, other people really can't, maybe on a limited basis you might mention, but I could actually use the Sun Valley Lodge, and I could use their image, and I could use their trademarked material. They let me do that. And, we had an agreement about that, but so I was able to do all that. But if you're setting your books in a place, especially a tourist place, I think sometimes it can be hard to do that if they don't, if it's a trademarked area or something like a resort, a particular resort. When I mentioned the Adolphus Hotel in A Woman of Fortune, I went to them and asked them, and they granted me permission as well. I was a little afraid because, I set a scene there that was pretty significant, and I did not want to cross any boundaries. So, legally you have to be kind of careful, but.
I know, because I mentioned Disney in Newport Harbor House with a reason that I had. But I asked everybody I know, and everybody I know said, well, if you say something nice, they probably won't do anything.
Yeah.
That's not a very good legal answer, but it was a very minor comment about
And if it's a casual mention, I don't think it's as critical. My editors at the publisher did ask me on when I did one set in San Antonio, and I had an E. coli breakout because I did an E. coli trial, and so I used all that for the plot line. They made me change because it was E. coli breaking out. They had me change the name to Waterworld instead of SeaWorld. So yeah, we changed.
Yeah, well, okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah, but anyone who reads it knows it's SeaWorld.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, but I can see
back to your giveaway. So anyone who comments is going to be entered. So all of you who have not actually, I mean, I know a lot of people lurk, but tonight you're going to want to put a comment. You can just put a quick question to Cindy.
Just say hello.
Here. Yeah.
Just say hello. No pressure.
Yeah. And then Cindy will go through and use her little deal, and she's generously giving 5 books away tonight. That's pretty incredible. So, and then we'll post the winners tomorrow. So get up early and come back and check, and she'll have all the winners posted. And then I think what you'll have to do is get your email address to Cindy so she can send you the complimentary book through Amazon. Has a gifting program. So that's how we'll do it. But I have really, really enjoyed having you here.
Me too.
I've seen you everywhere. I read your book, and I really wanted to get to know you better. And I did. I hope the readers enjoyed getting to know you too.
And thank you so much. And thank you for encouraging me and telling me I wouldn't throw up or anything. It would be fine.
Well, I had all that technical difficulty. My stomach was starting to roil a little bit. I thought, uh-oh. But the technical stuff can always kick me. I'll tell you, I'll accidentally push a wrong button or something, and then
You did a great job. Way better than I would have.
I told you when that kind of stuff happens, you just roll with it. So anyway,
keep it going.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing, I hope I'm going to see you in Florida at our big writers conference.
Oh, I know. I hope the world is a little more gentle by then, and we can go in all ways.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't get to go, our writers conference has these tiki hut bar thing out on the beach. And they have these wonderful beachy frozen drinks with umbrellas in them, and you can get them with or without alcohol. So, but anyway, there's a drink that we all love there called the Almond Joyous. Oh my gosh. It's like a liquid candy bar. And it's so Cindy, if we get to go, I get to buy you.
No.
Joyous.
I get to buy you.
Oh, good. Well, we'll just drink them all week. How's that?
All right.
Anyway,
with our toes in the sand.
It's been a pleasure. All right. Good night, everyone. Post your comments, and we'll see you soon. Be watching on She's Reading, because we'll be having another author chat soon. So, and that'll be posted. All right, everyone. Good night. See you, Cindy.